And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the KSL, the Korean StarCraft League, week number 67. Welcome to the quarterfinals. We just wrapped up the round of 16, and now we are jumping into our next series. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Whispers of Gold, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the Blue Zerg, representing Diamond Gladiators. It is SHIN. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponents. We have the South Korean Protoss, the red Protoss. It is Zoun. Here we go. And oh, I was about to say, if you're in the chat, it's Gamba time. It is about to be. I just realized I didn't actually close the previous betting line, so my apologies with the channel predictions. I'll get on it as quickly as possible, but we are here to embrace our first ZvP, potentially of many, as we have plenty of other Zerg and Protoss representation in the bracket. Un momento, as I set up the channel predictions. There we go. Beautiful. So if you're in the chat, it is Gamba time. Place your bets on who you think will claim the series. Best of luck in the chats. Coming into this, I would say that SHIN is the favorite player, but Zoun, post-military service, has been improving a lot here over the past couple of months, has been improving, has been getting better and better results, and has been working specifically on this matchup on PvZ. I would say that Zoun's best matchup is PvP, followed by Protoss versus Terran. He has taken down some of the bigger Terran and Protoss names in South Korea. When it comes to his Zerg opponents, though, that is where Zoun does struggle a little bit more, and is definitely a matchup that he is still exploring, that he's still building up on, and we'll see how he performs this week against SHIN. Here we go. Again, Zoun, for those that are unaware, Zoun, he is the most recent of players to finish up their military service and to come back into StarCraft. Before Zoun, it was Trap and Rogue, but Zoun is the most recent returnee, and it's great to have him back, of course. He's been back for, I want to say, just over a month. I want to say over a month at this point. Has been very active in the online tournament scene. Whether it's our Open Cups, whether it's the other Open Cups like Warrior TV Monday, Sparkling Tuna Cup, Tenacious Total Tussle, KSLs, of course, and online qualifiers. And we'll see how far he can come, or how far he can go even. But now, hatch gas full, standard opener here out of SHIN. Link speed is on the way, pulling out of gas. Nothing too crazy out of our Zerg player. Likewise, standard opener out of Zoun as well. Just gate, expand into Cybercore. We have a tech of choice, going to be the Stargate. Zoun isn't really one to deviate. Something that we have seen from Zoun, depending on the map of choice, we have seen him rush Tempest. That is a build that he has sprinkled in from time to time. But again, that is typically very map dependent, and I'm not too in love with the idea of rushing Tempest here on Whispers of Gold. The rush distance by ground on this map is very short, and likewise, the third and fourth base locations are very exposed as well, much more than on other maps. So this is, in a way, a rush map. It's very aggressive, it favors aggression, and we have seen a lot of all-ins from both sides as a result, whether it's a 3 base 8 gate all-ins from the side of Protoss, or whether it's 2 or even 3.5 base all-ins here from the side of Zerg, just massing up Ling, Roach, Ravager, going for Queen walks across the map, going for German taxis. So we'll keep an eye on both players to see which player is the first to be aggressive and to be active on the map. Who's it going to be? But now, we do have our initial Oracle. First Oracle's moving out across the map. Second Oracle's on the way. From here, Zoun, he should be expanding, should be taking a third. For the time being, it's going to be on SHIN to minimize losses and to keep up with the Oracle harass. As the Oracle does spot, does confirm. In the main base, there is a Spore done. In the natural, we have 2 queens. SHIN is looking secure. The Oracle rotates over towards the natural. SHIN is keeping up. So far, so good. Does zone Zoun away. There's that third base being placed. And we'll keep an eye on the follow-up tech from Zoun, as we have a third Oracle in production. And with this, we should be headed into 3 base saturation, into a Forge, into a Twilight Council, into +1 and Blink. So far, everything looking as it should from the side of Zoun. Meanwhile, SHIN going for an early Evo Chamber. With an early Evo Chamber, this should be leading into +1 melee into Ling Hydra, assuming that it is, of course, going to be melee and not range. As typically, you wouldn't really rush into a range upgrade in this matchup. Not typically, at least. And there it is, as we mentioned, it is melee. So this is the first sign of Ling Hydra. We'll see if SHIN does completely skip his Roach Warren, or if he still gets a safety Roach Warren at the 5-minute mark. So Oracle's denying creep. Threading a dive into the middle line. They got 1 drone. 1 worker goes down. Oh, they get a second drone here at the third base, getting a third, fourth drone even as well. And the Oracles, they barely do escape. At the same time, SHIN gets across the map, gets a probe, but just the one, and is zoned away. So Zoun, he defends, he gets 4 workers, not bad. Twilight counts a follow-up, later Forge here for Zoun. Ooh, I don't think that was intentional, as Zoun did have resources banked up. So that is a later +1 here for the Protoss. Meanwhile, we spoke about a safety Roach Warren. There it is, Roach Warren has been placed alongside the timing of the lair. So SHIN, he's not cutting too many corners. There are some Zerg players that will just skip it entirely and just go straight Ling Hydra. But SHIN is being safe. Is being safe. Double Oracle into the main. Oh, running a dive. 4th base under fire. Does come into the shade. Lings are trying to keep up. They force a recall. The Lings are in position. 1 Adept goes down. Nice defense so far here by SHIN. Oracles, they pivot into the main. But so far, good response by the Zerg. Doesn't lose any additional workers. Meanwhile, SHIN is triggered to counterattack. Does move out. Spotted by the Oracles. And the Adepts are in position. Yeah, Zoun defends. So far, so good. Does protect his 3rd base. We have Roach Speed on the way. And I assumed it was going to be into Hydras, but no, we're going into a Spire instead. Bold move here by SHIN. Let's go. The Spire has been placed. Going into a Muta switch. And we'll see if SHIN can get away with this. Now, typically, you want to go into mutas if you're expecting your opponent to go into a more Zealot-heavy composition. Meanwhile, Blink is not done. Stalkers are getting caught out. 1 Stalker goes down. Massive pickup. Doesn't quite get another. The Oracles are in position. Thankfully, just in time. As is a risky move out. Zoun throws down the proxy gateway. How many gateways is he on? Was on 6, soon to be 7. We mentioned before that aggression is favored on Whispers of Gold. Did mention before that 8k 3 base all-ins are not uncommon from the side of Protoss, and that is what we're headed towards here for Zoun. As it's purely Blink Stalker. +1 was delayed, bear that in mind. But Queens are going down, Roaches as well. SHIN, he's in trouble. Lings are coming from behind the stasis. Oh, the stasis does pop off. The Lings, they do nothing. They get caught out. Boys are being pulled, and SHIN, he's in trouble. Yeah, Zoun is snowballing out of control, breaks through the defensive line. The Spire is not going to come into play. Greedy move there out of SHIN. And SHIN, he will lose control of the 3rd, or the 4th even. 12 drones went down, Lings are falling. Stasis does run out. SHIN, he comes in from behind. With the help of the Roaches, can he hold on? Picks off a handful of Stalkers. But reinforcements are still trickling in for Zoun. And it should be enough. I mean, it's going to be close. There's 12 more Roaches on the way. SHIN, is he holding? He's forcing back the army. Bow does not connect. And these are still brutal losses here for SHIN. Bleeding out Roaches, not Lings. And he is still being broken. That's the stasis trap earlier was brutal. The Spire as well, as we mentioned, not coming into play. And Zoun, he has done it. He can overwhelm. He can just dive on the army if he wishes. Where's the blink? GG gets called, and Zoun, he will take game number 1. GG. GG, well played. Zoun, he will take a lead in the series. In the lead up to the all-in, SHIN, he was performing quite well. He was, for the most part, preserving his workers, preserving his mineral lines. He was going for the safety Roach Warren, but he was taking up into the Spire, and alas, he did miss the proxy gateway. Despite that, he still had potential for a defense, but the stasis traps were brutal, catching every single Ling as SHIN was attempting a surround. He was denied it. He was denied the surround. With that, Zoun was able to break through. SHIN, he was forced to pull the boys as a result, still bleeding out more Roaches, and that was the moment where Zoun did snowball out of control. GG. GG, well played. Also, I was referring to a 3-base 8-gate all-in. That was a 3-base 7-gate all-in, but it had +1 alongside it, and did have an extra gas geyser, I believe, at the 3rd base. So there was some slight deviation there for Zoun. Regardless, did break through. And now Zoun is 1 game away from taking the series. Let's go. Now, what I should emphasize is, as we mentioned, in the previous map on Whispers of Gold, aggression is favored, all-ins are favored, and I mean, it makes sense as to why Zoun would go for that build. I do not expect the same build here on ley lines. As spawning in the right-hand corner, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the Blue Zerg, representing Gaming Gladiators down in the series. We'll see if he can bounce back and force the ace match. It is SHIN. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponents. We have the red Protoss player, leading the series 1-0. One game away from advancing on to the semifinals. It is Zoun. We go. Now again, we did speak on Whispers of Gold, how the 3rd and 4th bases on that map are much more exposed. As opposed to that though, here on Ley Lines, we have a much more defendable 3rd and defendable 4th base. The biggest differences, the biggest features here are of course the ramps, the choke points coming into the bases, and the high ground advantage that the defender has as well. These are features that were not applicable to the previous map. This is also why the previous map is much more vulnerable and much more aggressive in nature. Here, a little bit more defendable. It is still a short rush distance by ground, longer I think still than Whispers of Gold, but still short nonetheless, but more defendable. As a result, we should be seeing a more standard back and forth. We should not be seeing the same build from the Protoss, from Zoun. Not saying that an all-in is impossible on Ley Lines, not at all. It's just the map is working against you, so it's just not as favored. It's more difficult to pull off. And likewise, you typically don't want to rely on the same build multiple times in a series, especially not a best of 3, as you don't have as much wiggle room to work with. So we'll keep an eye on Zoun. We'll keep an eye on his gateway count, on his saturation, on his tech. For now, looking like another Stargate opener out of our Protoss player. SHIN, he attempted Muta play last game, and he couldn't quite get into it. He couldn't quite embrace it. Could he try to pivot back into it here in game 2? It's possible. I think it's a lot more viable here on Ley Lines compared to Whispers of Gold. Now link speed is on the way. It is going to be the initial Stargate from Zoun. Stargate once again. And as a reminder, last game, it was a standard open out of Zoun as well. It was triple Oracle into a 3rd base, into +1 and Blink and Twilight Council. So we expect something similar here out of Zoun as well. At least when it comes to the opener of choice. See if SHIN can keep up as well as he did previously against the Oracle Harass. As the rocks are being dealt with. Looking to saturate his bases. And, oh, okay, interesting. As Zoun, he does deviate. This time it is still a Stargate, but it is going to be a Void Ray first instead. I appreciate this. It's going to be a Void Ray opener. Now, there is a bit of a give and take with Void Ray play instead. The goal of the Void Ray is to hunt down the Overlords. Hunt down the Overlords is to keep SHIN in the dark, is to make sure he does not know what's coming up next. And this could be for some hidden tech. This could be for transition into a Fleet Beacon, into Sky Toss. If you remember at the start of Whispers of Gold, we did bring up the fact that Zoun is one to rush into Tempest. He has done that in the past, so could do that here as well. There's potential for some hidden tech, or it could just be Oracle into a 2nd Oracle, into a 3rd base, into a Twilight Council, into +1 and Blink, into a standard game. The goal here, though, is that SHIN doesn't know. Could be standard, could not be. The downside, as again, there is a give and take with a Void Ray opener, is that you're going to be down in Oracles. Because of that, you have limited scouting information. You're going to have less to harass across the map to punish the mineral lines and punish the economy. That is the trade-off. As the first Oracle does move out across the map. Oh, going for a 2nd Void. Okay, let him cook. 2nd Void Rays on the way. That I was not expecting. Interesting. 2nd Void Ray is in production. Do we go for a 2nd Stargate? Do we go for a Fleet Beacon? What is the plan here? What are we hiding? As the Oracle moves out. Threatens the natural. At the same time, SHIN did invest into a mass amount of Lings, going for a counterattack. SHIN is droning, but his goal here is to try to strike that 3rd. Void Ray is revealed, takes down a 2nd Overlord. Lings to hit the 3rd base. 2nd Void Ray is revealed. And SHIN, he respects it. He has to back off. 3rd Void Ray is on the way. This should be +1 in charge, right? This should be Void Ray charge all in. We've seen Hero do a build similar to this as well. I mean, it's been a while, but he has embraced it before. Like a Void Ray charge all in is something we have seen before. As extra gateways are on the way, the tech has finished up. What upgrades are we going for? Yeah, there it is. It is going to be eventually charged us, but initially Temple Archives into Archon production. So we have a charged Archon follow-up. So there we go, charges on the way. And that's going to be very strong timing here for Zoun. And again, it's on SHIN to try to figure out what's going on. You can see his scouting is checking the third base. He's looking for reinforcing units. If he sees extra Stalkers being warped in or Zealots being warped in, that is indicative of what is to come. There we go, does spot the Zealots. There's a sign of charge. And because it's going to be charged, he responds with a Spire. This I'm more fond of, kind of. What I should say here is that there's no Blink Stalkers to deal with this, and SHIN knows that. He knows that the chances of there being Blink Stalkers is quite low. I'm just concerned that Zoun is going to go for a 3-base all-in, hit it timing with these upgrades, and snowball out of control before SHIN can embrace the mutas, just like the previous game. I'm getting some deja vu. Where SHIN, he wants the mutas, and then he dies before he can actually make any. Or before they can pay for themselves. Things they threaten to run by. Archon's a morph in just in time. Charge +1 on the way. But Zoun, he has no Robo, he has no War Prism. The Robo's just now finishing. Without a Prism, he can't be active on the map. Void Rays are deflected. One Void Ray goes down. Here comes the War Prism. War Prism is on the way to reinforce. But until then, Zoun is stuck at home, which means this Spire, it's going to finish. It's going to finish up. Mutas are on the way. That's going to be 13 mutas for SHIN. And they have potential for damage. Of course, the mutas, they cannot touch the main army. And this is what I was worried about. As SHIN is investing into mutas, here comes Zoun with Archon Chargelet. And with the War Prism as well. Here comes the move out. And the mutas are not going to help in the defense. As things are brought down, roach production has begun. But are there any roaches? Zero. There's 0 roaches to defend. Zoun, he can push in. He can commit. There are queens, though. Has a lot of queens. SHIN dancing with the army. The expansion's going to go down. At the same time, mutas, they get across the map. They hit the natural. Probes are falling. So they'll run by into the main. SHIN, he defends. Forces a recall. The Archons have arrived. Phoenix production has begun. So far, SHIN is doing well. He forced the army back home. Did force it all the way back. SHIN massing up a roach-based composition, moving out with the queens. Let's go! The Overlords, they move out as well. SHIN is going all in. Cutting workers out on the full base saturation. It's going to be all or nothing for SHIN. Does he have enough to break through, though? The Archons are in position, catching out the Overlords. SHIN attempts to spread creep. Roach is getting caught out as well. Where are the queens? The queens are still lagging behind. And Zoun is forcing a fight. With the queens, not coming into play. Roach is being forced back. Queens, they whirl in from behind. Once again, Zoun, he avoids the army. Turns back around, going for the queens. At the same time, mutas, they hit the natural. The queens are exposed. Roach Ravager lagging behind this time instead. Files do connect. Yeah, massive files on the Void Rays. Void Rays taking a lot of damage. And SHIN, does he have enough? Ooh, as the Void Rays, they shut down. They get shut down. The Void Rays do fall. The Roach Ravager, they break through. They take down the Archons, but the Immortals, they hold on. Zoun, he defends. He does hold. He forces back the army. And remember, SHIN, he doesn't have a 4th base behind this. His saturation is lacking. Just now taking up into a Hydra Den. SHIN, he's stuck on Roach Ravager. And Zoun, tech-wise, is in a better position. Zoun is ahead. Zoun is ahead. That was a failed all-in out of SHIN. And now SHIN, he has to try to transition. Hydra Den, Infestation Pit, into Hive Tech, into Lurkers. +2 has now just begun. +2 is already complete for Zoun. And Zoun, he barely lost any workers. He's ahead economically. In economically, composition, upgrades. Zoun is in a better position. When it comes to the mutas, they all got thrown away. There's 1 muta left. As they did attempt to pull Zoun apart. And right now we're in a position where the soup does lie. SHIN, he's up in supply, but a lot of it is just Roach Ravager. It's a very inefficient army, or at least supply inefficient, compared to what Zoun has. The stasis is up! Oh my god. Oh, does notice. Does notice the stasis. Thankfully, just in time. Piles that don't quite connect. Ooh, forcing friendly fire. And nice splits here from Zoun. Avoids the vials. And SHIN can't fight this head on. Still dancing with the army. Once the Archon does get it. Archon does fall. And it will reinforce with Hydras. As is reinforcing, we have the fleet beacon on the way. Zoun, he's secure on his 4 base economy, still up in workers. And working towards the mothership. Working towards potentially Skytos. SHIN is still trying to commit. I mean, at least there's no splash damage. There's no Storm or Colossus. Despite that, SHIN's still just ramming up against a brick wall. Leading out roaches of all things. SHIN is maxing out. Now, if you recall earlier, I pointed out the infestation bit. No hive. There's no hive. There's no lurker den. SHIN, he's going for a second all-in, essentially, as he has not been droning at all. So it's just going to be purely Roach Ravager Hydra. He has chosen that it's too late to take up into hive. As pushing towards the natural. Vials, they don't quite connect. Fleet beacon is done. +3 about to finish up here for Zoun. The mothership has started. The mothership, it's on the way. And these are still just more efficient trades here for Zoun. Picking up roaches, picking up ravagers. Expensive losses here for SHIN. Ay. And he's only really gotten a gateway. He's gotten a gateway, gotten a couple of zealots. He will rotate, catching at an Archon. Oh! Zoun out of position. Yeah, the Archon and the Immortal, they are exposed. Zoun trying to collapse in, but an awkward fight for the Protoss. As he has cleaned up at least half his army. Zoun just having awkward movements. SHIN, he does have some potential here. He has some momentum. Rotating back around. Diving the Immortal, doesn't quite get it. Oh god, the force fields. Force fields are brutal. The mothership has arrived. Tempest production has begun. Only 1 Stargate, so only making 1 Tempest at a time. And now we finally see the Hive and the Lurker Den. But again, this tech is late. Intentionally so. And SHIN is still not droned, and now only just droning. 5 workers on the way. SHIN trying to get into that next step. But again, Zoun is already there. Zoun, he's already there. With a massive Mortal Archon-based composition. 11 Lurkers morphing in. And can SHIN slow the game down? I'm just worried that eventually, like up until this point, Zoun has not really been active at all on the map. But soon he will. Soon he's going to push out. And when he does, I don't know if SHIN can stop him. As this army is terrifying. Jeez, how many Immortals? 7 Immortals. 6 Archons. A Tempest, a Mothership, Slow Zone, Cloak of course. The roaches, they get pounced upon. The army's gonna fall. Lurker's out of position. And instead, SHIN is going for a counterattack, going for a pseudo base trade. SHIN, he will lose the 4th. Zoun keeps pushing. And SHIN turns back around with the Lurkers. He can defend the natural. But what about the 3rd base? Expansion goes down, and from here, Zoun can recall. And he will. Full smack. Does he recall? Does he just walk back home? As he will lose his 4th and his 5th. Does force a cancel. Zoun, he races back. And as the dust settles, we have SHIN, who's on 2 bases, or really a 1 base economy, as he's out of minerals in the main. So half a base economy here for SHIN. And Zoun, I mean, he still has his 3rd. Expands towards the north. Still has a terrifying army, up in army supply. Pushing into this wall of Lurkers is not going to be easy. But SHIN doesn't need to. He's just chilling, just expanding. 2 more Stargates on the way. Getting into triple Tempest production. Viper production has begun for SHIN. Does get a fresh mining base up and running. And Zoun double expands. Just double expands at this point. The reality is that SHIN, he cannot aggressively move into these bases. He cannot fight the main army of Zoun. SHIN ideally wants Zoun to push into him, where he has, the defensive advantage, that he has the concave of his lurkers. That is all he has going for him. SHIN is still working on those lurker upgrades, doesn't have adaptive talents. The Vipers, they will help. And Zoun is maxed. Now, as Zoun is maxing out, this is where he does need to be active. Does need to trade as well. Ideally. Instead of allowing SHIN to catch back up and max out himself. And have a chance back into this game. But now Zoun just waiting for his upgrades. +2 shields about to finish. Tectonic destabilizers as well. He's getting there. Likewise, SHIN is still stuck with basically Roach, Ravager, Hydra. Has those 3 Vipers, of course. I'm a little bit concerned that Zoun has no counter to the Vipers in the sense that he never invests into Storm. Speaking of, he reads my mind. There it is. Storm is on the way. But at the moment, we're lacking Storm. We're lacking feedbacks, which is a concern. Nice position here by Zoun. Peeking with the mineral line. Vipers are moving in. Looking for those abductions. They get 1, they get 2. They get all 3. Oh my god. 2 Tempests going down. They get the 3rd Tempest as well. Nicely done. 1 Tempest survives. At the same time, those Zealot Rambe here towards the 4th base. 12 drones go down. Oh, he wants the feedback. He gets it. Feedback goes up. There's still 2 more Vipers. They come in. They get the yoink. Up. And they get the 2nd. Tempest falls. It took a lot of abductions, but the Tempest count gets reset. High Templar goes down. Nice pickup. More Tempest on the way. SHIN now has a comparable army size. SHIN rotating over. Let's just say the quality of SHIN's army is still not ideal, but he has the Vipers. They come in, they yoink some of the Immortals. Hope he gets 1. Gets a Tempest as well. The base is gonna fall. And where are the High Templar, by the way? There's still only 1. Only 1 High Templar, no Storms against this heavy of a Hydra army. Where's the splash damage? Can we throw down the slow zone? Archons, they collapse it. Oh my god. The Archons. They just mow through the army. The Hydra. Who needs Storm? Who needs splash damage when you have Mass Archon? Jesus. The Archons and the Immortals, of course, together. They break through. GG gets called. SHIN's army melts completely. And Zoun will take the series at 2-0. GG. GG, well played. I was concerned about the lack of Storm, but nah, happy I didn't need to be. Zoun, again, he still had a massive amount of Immortal Archon. For those that are curious, Immortal Archon can break through siege lines of lurkers as long as you have a good concave, a good setup, a good line there, or a good open space that you can collapse into. Choke points are brutal, and it can be very difficult pushing up ramps or into these choke points where you're pushing into a concave, but that was not the case out in the open. That is where the ground toss army is favored. GG. GG, well played. Whew. With that, congratulations, Zoun will advance on to the semifinals, and the question becomes, does he have an opponent? Let's catch up on what's been going on. Let's go. Let us go.